Good morning, Kenya. Rise and shine to the morning momentum. Your daily dose of a comprehensive rundown of the top stories making the headlines on the papers. It is the 15th day of July. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. And this is a daily compendium of local and international news, human interest stories, current affairs, and expert opinion. Use the hashtag The Morning Momentum at Younib Media TV at Alphonce Albakwekwe. Let's take a look at the top stories on the Daily Nation. The elephant in the room this morning, reckless talk. Now, political leaders make charged declarations during public rallies across the country. They lose cannons with just over 2 years to the next general election. Some politicians associated with Kenya Kwanza administration have started sowing seeds of discord with utterances about rigging the 2027 presidential contest. The new IEBC team has denounced their claims while opposition leaders want action taken on the offenders. Now, among those leaders are Baringo North MP Joseph Makilap, who said, and I quote, "Dr. Ruto must stay. Let it not be that when a leader comes from our region, we say he must go, but when from another region, no one pushes such agenda." Kapsaret MP Oscar Sudi said, and I quote, "Those online critics shouting Ruto must go, whether they jump, go down, or move sideways, Ruto is not going anywhere. Even if his votes won't be enough, we will add them." Wajir Women Representative Fatuma Jeho said, and I quote, "When it comes to the president, we say 2 terms. We are just waiting for the ballot. Even if we don't have enough votes, we will steal for him. That's no secret." Tiati MP William Kamket said, and I quote, "If they joke around, you know I come from the county of 24 years. Baringo County knows how to manufacture a president to survive for 24 years. If they joke, we might even extend past the 2 terms." Now, those are the sentiments that are beefed up for you on the front page of the Nation. On page 7, Lagat resumes office as bid to stop return flops. It was low-key and brief day for Deputy Inspector General Eliud Lagat, who reported back to work yesterday after nearly a month away from office. He stepped aside on July 16th to allow investigations by the IPOA into death of teacher cum blogger Albert Ojwang, who died while in custody at Nairobi Central Police Station. On page 2, ghost staff revealed plumbers and teachers posed as health workers in 9 billion UHC scandal. Some 3,000 of the 8,571 health staff deployed to COVID-19 frontlines in 2020 were not medics. Officials conducting a national headcount of the workers have found out. On page 10, in matters education, release capitation funds, school heads now demand as cashews bite. Principals of public secondary schools have demanded that the government release over 18 billion owed to the institutions since the beginning of the calendar year, warning that the shortfall has negatively affected learning. Now, in sports news on page 35, Chelsea's Iceman Palmer put the chill on PSG in Club World Cup final. We'll take a look at that. Let's get up close and candid with the Nation on page 2. 9 billion scandal. Plumbers, saloon workers pose as health workers. The extended verification has frustrated legitimate universal health coverage employees. Approximately 3,000 ghost workers have been collecting monthly salaries of 50,000 shillings each month. Officials conducting a nationwide head count of universal health coverage medics have uncovered a shocking revelation. Some of the 8,571 health workers deployed to COVID-19 frontlines in 2020 are actually plumbers, salon workers, carpenters, and early childhood education teachers with no medical training whatsoever. The discovery has exposed massive fraud that has cost Kenyan taxpayers an estimated 9 billion over the past 5 years, with approximately 3,000 ghost workers collecting monthly salaries of 50,000 shillings each month. What next after that? Page 3, when faith holds a loved one's burial. Grave matter. Family members locked in bitter legal battles, hoping to bury kin according to their religious beliefs. Such is the reality facing a family in Kilifi, where the burial of their son, 27, has ignited a storm. In many societies, death is not merely the end of life, but a solemn transition that calls for honor, rituals, and familial consensus. However, this is not always the case. The manner in which the dead are laid to rest often carries as much significance as how they lived their faith or culture. When religion pulls in opposing directions, grief can morph into protracted legal battles, denying the departed peaceful protest. You want to catch up with that on page 3. Let's move on and take a look at page 4. Politicians on the spot over reckless poll rigging talk. Now, elections in Mount Kenya, particularly the presidential contests, have on several occasions triggered deadly violence following allegations of electoral manipulation. The new IEBC team forced to fend off claims, saying statements are unacceptable as opposition leaders demand actions on offenders. Ethekon pledges free and fair elections upon assuming office. The chairman of IEBC, Vice Chairperson Fahima Abdallah, and commissioners Hassan and Francis Adwal pledged to deliver credible elections. Now, that power is exercised through the vote of the people. That story is augmented for you on page 4. Now, on page 5, Matiang'i warns polls agency against monkey business. Presidential hopeful Dr. Fred Matiang'i yesterday invoked the controversial 2018 self-swearing in of Raila Odinga as the people's president to underscore the need for IEBC to avoid monkey business in the 2027 general election. Now, on page 5, Ruto allies hit back over enemy of Mount Kenya claims. Former DP accused Mr. Ishungwa and Mr. Kiunjuri for colluding with state to oppress Mount Kenya. Mr. Gachagua has been labeled bitter, unable to disregard past political grievances. The leader of majority in the National Assembly, that is Kikuyu MP Kimani Ichung'wah, and Laikipia East MP Mwangi Kiunjuri, are pushing back against claims by former DP Rigathi Gachagua that they are the biggest enemies of the Mount Kenya region, allegedly collaborating with President William Ruto to harm residents and destroy businesses in the region. On page 7 this morning, low-key day as Lagat resumes duties. The DIG stepped aside to pave way for probe by IPOA into the death of the teacher and blogger, Albert Ojwang. Sources familiar with his schedule said Mr. Lagat did not return to Vigilance House even after officially resuming duties. At a glance, a slow day for under fire police boss, the nation has established that Mr. Lagat arrived at Vigilance House shortly before 9 a.m., driving himself without the official chase cars that usually accompany him. Upon arrival, he held a brief meeting in his office with his principal deputy, Patrick Tito, who updated him on pressing matters requiring his attention. Mr. Lagat spent about an hour and a half at Vigilance House before heading to the National Police Service headquarters at Jogo House, where he met his boss, IG Douglas Kanjwa, in a closed-door session. On page 8, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics taken to task over skewed hiring. The Kikuyu, Luo, Luya, Kamba, and Kalenjin communities comprise 304 of the 506 employees. 5 dominant ethnic communities account for over half of the total workforce. Now, the Statistics Bureau is on the spot after the recent employment of staff from 5 dominant ethnic communities who already account for over half of the total workforce at the exclusion of 14 other ethnicities who lack representation at the institution. The Senate National Cohesion, Equal Opportunity and Regional Integration Committee put the KNBS Director, General MacDonald Obudo, to task to explain why it employed new staff from Kikuyu, Luo, Luya, and Kamba Kalenjin communities when they already comprised 304 of the 506 employees. You want to catch up with that story on page 8. Let's take a look at page 10. Head teachers demand release of capitation funds amid cash woes. Now, Kesha has urged the government to revert the cost of sharing model that was in place before 2017. Secondary school principals have accused the government of disbursing inadequate funds, crippling operations. That story is augmented for you on page 10. Let's move on and take a look at page 12. Uproar over Nakada's alcohol rules. Of concern to artists and entertainers is the ban on celebrity endorsement of alcoholic drinks. Industry stakeholders have termed the new rule as unnecessary, legally questionable, and potentially damaging. Regulations. What the new rules say is that among the sweeping reforms Nakada seeks to introduce are raising the legal drinking age from 18 to 21 and banning alcohol sale near schools, places of worship, and residential estates. The new laws also prohibit online and home delivery of alcoholic drinks and celebrity endorsements of alcoholic beverages, particularly during children's programming or school events. All right. Let's move on and take a look at more stories here on the nation. We go to page 14. Locals protest military evictions in Manda Bay. Now, plan was to set in motion following President Ruto's state visit to America in 2024. Families accuse the government of pushing them out of their land to expand the airfield. That story is beefed up for you on page 14. Let's move on and take a look at page 16. Autopsy for Nanyuki woman killed during Sabasaba demo was called off. The National Police Service denies involvement of its officer in the death. A spokesperson of Julia Wangui's family says the post-mortem couldn't be done without an IPOA representative. That story is augmented for you on page 16. Let's move on and take a look at the expert opinion now. Why the state, not young protesters, is the real terrorist. It's time for all Kenyans of conscience to stand up and reclaim our democracy from those who destroy it. Those are sentiments of Nerima Wako, a governance specialist. Now let's move on and take a look at the healthy nation is what we have beefed up for you on the DN2 article this morning. The disease that steals everything. First, they lost speech, then movement, finally, life itself. The Langats have buried 5 family members who succumbed to motor neuron disease, an illness so poorly understood in Kenya that most patients die without ever getting proper diagnosis. You want to catch up with that and know which disease is this on the DN2 health article on the nation this morning. Let's move on and take a look at county news now. Well, we see what we have here on the papers. Now, just a moment before we get to county news. There you go. Now, governors enlist military to revive stalled projects. Move divides opinion with critics accusing Ruto of double standards. KDF personnel will work on critical infrastructure, stadiums, and hospitals. Now, let's delve a little bit into that because apparently some counties have handed over stalled projects to the military. Governors are now turning to the military to help complete critical projects in their regions. Stung by delayed development and with some of the projects falling way behind schedule, county bosses have enlisted the services of the Kenya Defense Forces to complete them. The nation has learned that some governors engaged President William Ruto and struck a deal for the KDF to finish stalled projects. Critical infrastructure, stadiums, hospitals, and schools are among the incomplete projects. The audit report, 12 billion projects stalled in 10 counties. A recent Auditor General report for the financial year that ended June 30th, 2023 revealed that projects worth at least 12 billion in 10 counties had stalled. The projects include health centers, roads, early childhood development education classrooms, residences of governors and stadiums. The affected counties, according to the report for the financial year ended June, are Nairobi, Kiambu, Baringo, Nakuru County, Turkana, West Pokot, Tana River, Kitui, Nyamira, and Trans Nzoia counties. Let's stay on page 21. Conservation. Kenya's 15 billion tree plan falls short as targets missed. Now, Kenya's ambitious plan to plant 15 billion trees in 10 years is falling behind. The Environment CS, Deborah Baraza, said only 842 million trees were planted in the last 2 years, far short of the annual target of 1.5 billion. She said that the tree count has grown from 52 million a decade ago to 842 million today, but it was still far from the target. You want to catch up with that on page 21. In Nairobi County, court rules man couldn't own property before birth, dismisses claim. Now, a judge has stated that the death threats will not deter nor hinder judicial officers from fulfilling their constitutional mandate of dispensing justice. While delivering a landmark judgment in a case involving a police officer who had threatened Moyale magistrate M.S. Kimani during a land dispute, Justice Ogutu Mboya declared that, and I quote, "Threats can't bear justice from being delivered," end of quote. Justice Mboya made the remarks as he dismissed with costs an appeal lodged by Abiguyo Jatani challenging a magistrate's decision that declared his father, whom he had threatened to kill, along with his sister Fatuma Guyo, as the legal and rightful owner of a commercial plot in Moyale town. Now, we stay on page 22. Gold fever grips quiet village in Homa Bay. Former fishermen and fishmongers have now turned their focus to mining. Until May this year, Rose Atieno was a fish trader regularly transporting omena from Sindo town to Awendo in Migori County, over 100 kilometers away. But her fortunes and focus recently shifted dramatically after hearing of a new opportunity that promised greater returns, that is gold. Now, Miss Atieno is a mine operator, having left the labor-intensive fish trade behind. All right. I don't know why my cameraman keeps laughing every time we mention food on the papers. Now he's laughing at omena. Let's move on and take a look at the international scene. Now, Trump promises to send Patriot missiles to Ukraine. Zelensky announces Svyredenko to take over as prime minister. In a sharp departure from his earlier stance, he will also give a new arms plan. Now, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky held talks with the U.S. envoy on Monday on increasing weapons production and arms purchases after President Donald Trump said he would send Patriot air defense missiles to Kyiv. Now, in Nigeria, Nigeria's ex-leader Buhari to be buried today. Nigeria's late former president Muhammadu Buhari, who died in a London clinic on Sunday, aged 82, will be buried in his northern home state of Katsina on Tuesday, the state governor said. Buhari, a former military ruler after a coup in the 1980s, returned to frontline politics to become the first Nigerian president to oust an incumbent through the ballot box in 2015. He was re-elected for a second term 4 years later. Now, briefly, in Yaoundé and Nairobi, world's oldest President Biya to seek 8th term. The world's oldest head of state, Cameroon's President Paul Biya, who is 92, has said he will run once more for re-election in October, aiming to extend his 43 years in power. I quote, "Rest assured that my determination to serve you matches the urgency of the challenges we face," end of quote, he said in a post on X. He added that his decision to go for an 8th term came after, I quote, "numerous and insistent calls by people from all regions in Cameroon and the diaspora." All right. Let's go to Benghazi. Gang frees over 100 migrants to held captive in Libya. More than 100 migrants, including 5 women, have been freed from captivity after being held for ransom by a gang in eastern Libya, the country's attorney general said on Monday. Now that brings us to the end of the international news. Let's take a quick look at money talks in the business news. Now, firms surrender 273 million shillings amid mining levy purge. Payouts follow a crackdown after arrears jumped 23%. EAPC, Tata Chemicals, Magadi, Carbasid, and African Diatomite marginally cut debt. The key figure stands at 2.78 billion, and that is the amount owed to the state by mining firms as at June 2024. That story is beefed up for you on page 25. In the financials, Centum profit falls 68%, and in communication, Safaricom suffers blow in Bonga Point's expiry suit. The High Court has declined to suspend a judgment quashing the imposition of expiry dates on Safaricom's Bonga Points loyalty program pending an appeal. Safaricom had sought the suspension of the judgment delivered last November. Justice Chacha Mwita said it would not be in the public interest to grant a stay whose effect is to allow what was unconstitutional to continue. All right, now let's move on and take a look at the sports news. We start with football. 2024 CHAN, state assures fans of enough security. African Nations Championship match tickets go on sale tomorrow. CS Murkomen and Mvuria yesterday carried out security assessment at the match venues. Right. On page 35, about 2025 FIFA World Cup, Chelsea's Iceman Palmer puts the chill on PSG in Club World Cup final. The Saturn falls on dry run tournament for 2026 FIFA World Cup. Attacking midfielder scores twice in 3-goal first half blitz to sink Paris Saint-Germain at a sweltering MetLife Stadium. The story is beefed up for you on page 35. Let's move on and take a look at the cover page of The Nation this morning. Kenya's long journey towards getting CAF's green light for co-hosting CHAN tournament. 19 teams, including co-hosts Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, to compete in 8th edition from August 2nd to 30th. When CAF okayed Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania as hosts, local fans were doubtful of government's commitment to having venues ready on time. All right, with that story of CHAN, we come to the tail end of the morning momentum this 15th day of July 2025. Thank you so much for choosing to watch the best youth television network in East and Central Africa. The program on air has been the morning momentum. Our heartfelt gratitude goes to all those who made this broadcast a success this morning. The Chief Controller, Penina Washera, and behind the lens has been Elias Mushina. See you tomorrow at the studio, same time. Until then, do have a beautiful Tuesday ahead of you. Bye-bye for now. My name is Alphonce Ouma.